أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا وقدوتنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد فنسأل الله عز وجل بأسمائه الحسنى وصفاته العلى أن يجعلنا وإياكم من المستمعين للقول والمتبعين أحسنه وأن يجعل ما نقوله ونسمعه حجة لنا ولا علينا يوم الدين أما بعد فالله سبحانه وتعالى يقول في كتابه الكريم Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book that Allah يحكم ما يريد, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the legislations, yani he commands and forbids in any way he likes. And this is one of the first things that we need to do when we look at the ayat al-fiqhiyya, is to remember لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. Yani he will not be asked about what he does, but they will be asked. Meaning that when it comes down to the ayat al-fiqhiyya, if we are looking for the hikmah behind it, for the wisdom behind it, it's not because we doubt the wisdom. Today people, when they look for the hikmah min wara'i al-hukmi, yani they look for the wisdom behind the ruling, they do it because they doubt. They say, I don't understand why Allah ruled this or that. Why is he doing this? When you say why, because you want to see the beauty of his ahkam, there's no problem. When you say why, because you say I don't see anything beneficial behind it, then this is wrong. So the first thing we need to do when we look at ayat al-fiqhiyya or al-ahkam al-fiqhiyya is to have the yaqeen, the certitude that the ahkamullah azza wa jal are ahkamu adlin wa insaf. That the rulings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are just and they are neutral. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't give preference to that one and not to this one. Everybody is submitted to the same hukm. Everybody is submitted to the same what? To the same rulings. Being it the governor or the one who is ruled over, being it a woman or a man. When there is this adl al-ilahi, that is the only way to establish peace on the face of the earth. So now, the question before we enter into today, al-hukm fil mashi al Khuffain is what we are going to have a look at, and ahkam at-tayammum, the dry ablution. These are two things we are going to look at today, inshallah. But the first thing I want to ask or to say is, sometimes people, when they feel that they are feeling a bit heavy, when they have to pray, when they have to fast, when you have to get up for Salat al-Fajr, sometimes you feel a bit burdened. You might feel it as something a bit heavy, like, oh, subhanallah, I wanted it to be 29 days of Ramadan, not 30, because I'm so tired. There's a difference between you describing who you are as a physical body being tired, which is okay. It's normal that you are tired when you wake up for Fajr. It's normal that you would like to stay a bit in your bed. This doesn't make you a bad Muslim. The proof that you love Allah Jalla wa Ala is that you feel it, but that you don't submit to it. And لا تستسلم للكسل, yani that you do not submit to your what? Submit to your laziness or to the fact that you feel it as a burden. Is that clear? And this is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he spoke about the darajat al-ula, the high levels in paradise, one of the things he mentioned was وَإِسْبَاغُ الْوُضُوءِ عَلَى الْمَكَارِهِ. انظر, yani that you perform wudu على المكاره while you are disliking it, meaning in a cold night there is cold water and you are under your blankets and you know that if you're going to do like this, you will feel the cold. So you're not like, yes, let me be cold. And then when you use the water, you feel cold. This is على المكاره. So the Prophet ﷺ didn't say that this is a weakness. He said that doing something which is difficult for you and yet doing it is a strength. You see the difference? So now sometimes I think I'm a bad Muslim because I feel it's heavy. No, it is heavy. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yani in general, yani or as a whole, His ahkam are adila. His ahkam are just. His ahkam are munsifa. Yani they take everything into account. Your weaknesses, your strengths, your money or the absence of it, your health or the absence of it. In everything you see, you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just muyassir. Yani He is making things easy for khalqillah. If you can't pray standing up, pray sitting. If you can't pray sitting, then lie down. If you lie down and you cannot lie down on your right side facing Mecca, then on your back. And if now you can't move your head, according to some fuqaha, then what? I'm sorry, somebody asked me a question here. My. So now, barakallahu fikum, so we see, and when you can't move your eyebrows or your eyes or whatever, يعني تسقط عنك الصلاة عند البعض. يعني some of the fuqaha, they say you no longer need to pray. Because prayer is something physical, it's not something just happening inside of you. So they say from the moment you're no longer able to do al-inhina, you can't lower your what? Your face, or then they say سقطت عنك. There's ikhtilaf amongst the ulama, but nevertheless you see that these are the rulings that are being spoken about. Even things which are fi aslihi muharrama, yani things which are at the basis haram, like aklul mayta, like eating a dead animal which hasn't been slaughtered, or like drinking wine, for example, that even the things which are haram at a certain point may become obligatory. Obligatory, not just halal, muaqqatan. And we don't say it is halal, say the eating of it is halal, even though that the asl is haram. No? So now you will see that even there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ غَيْرَ بَاغٍ وَلَا عَادٍ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ. So what is baghin وَلَا عَاد? Yani the one that doesn't do it with al-baghi and not with al-udwan. Yani this is very important to make the difference, because Allah mentioned two things. Yani if you are in need and you have to drink from this alcohol, or you need to eat from this pork or unslaughtered meat, or these corpses that haven't rotten yet of these animals, then Allah says غير باغ ولا عدو, يعني not with al-udwan and not with al-baghi. They say, what is al-baghi, what is al-udwan? They say al-baghi would be من ناحية المعتقد, يعني أو من ناحية الرغبة. They mean that you now say, okay, now is the time to try some beer. You see? That within you, you are not looking at it as something which is there to help you, but as the time to try it. This is baghi. So you should not long for it. Like, okay, now the muharram, I know what it tastes like. Now it is halal for me to do it. You can't approach the meat and the alcohol with this feeling and this intention when you're about to do it. You're going to do it to survive. من اضطر, yani because you are muttar, you are in need. That's one. So then al-adu, yani al-udwan, غير باغ ولا عاد. نعم. So I'm sorry, I said adu. يعني غير باغ ولا عاد. يعني أن لا يكون معتديا. يعني أن لا يتجاوز الحد. That the person does not trespass the boundaries. Meaning, the scholars say it's divided into two. So let's say your plane crashes, right? You have your plane that crashes, and now there are some bottles of alcohol. Some is 0.1%, some is 2%, some is 5%, some is 10%. You have vodka, whiskey, beer. So now it's not just, okay, it became halal. No, the least harmful is to be used until there is no more. So instead of drinking the whiskey, you're going to drink the beer. No? And then when that's finished, you're going to compare. This is 2% alcohol, this is 5. Well, I need to go for the 2. You understand? So this is غير باغ ولا عاد. You see this? Also, غير عاد, they say that you do not drink more than necessary. So it's not like, guys, somebody has a guitar with him, sit around the campfire and let us drink some beer. That doesn't work. These are Jupiler commercials. That is no part of your practice of the ayah. So what are you going to do? The scholars say, drink what you need to stay alive and a bit more to be able to what? To function. Because if it's just to drink, not to die, then you will stay like this, because you will have no energy. And when you walk, there's a very big difference in your body the amount of fluid it needs when it doesn't move and when it does move. No? It's a difference in days, not in hours. So you will, yani when you move to get yourself out of the problem, you will be in need of more. And this is why the scholars say, well, yani غير باغ ولا عاد, yani also that you are allowed to take provision with you. إن كان غالب ظنه أن لا يجد غيره. Yani if you think that you will not find when you are traveling to get out of this problem, if you think that you are most unlikely to find another pork or another, alcoholic beverage or a river or whatever you can drink from, then you are allowed to take with you. So you don't even have to leave it behind you. So you see that these ahkam al-shar'iyya, even though that they are connected to haqqullahi ala al-abd, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's right over his creation, that nevertheless there is taysir. وَالتَّيْسِيرُ يعني عند الوقت الحاجة. يعني the taysir, the facilitation, the making it easier upon the slave is only when there is a need, not when there is no need. So now we are going to have a look at al-mashu ala al-Khuffain, which is actually also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala making things easy. And we also have a tayammum. And that is what we are going to have a look at today, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As al-mashu ala al-Khuffaini. Al-mashu huwa imraru al-yadi ala al-shay. Yani al-mashu means rubbing. Naam? To rub, to go over something. That is al-mashu. Naam? So, isabatul yad al-mubtalla. Min nahiyat al-shara' from the sharia. Isabatul yad al-mubtalla. أو ما يقوم مقامها أعلى الخف في المدة الشرعية. So our ulama, they say that the مسح على الخفين is that you with your moistened hand go over the top part, over the what? How do you say it? Not the top part. You have the back and the, and how do you call this? The top. Okay, over the top of your what? Over your khuf. Naam, not the feet. The feet in the Shia jaiza. The Shia, they say you can also do just masah over your feet, and it's not a condition that they are covered. But in the Fiqh of Ahlul Sunnah, this is not allowed. Imam Tabari, the Mufassir, he had this opinion, but then he came back on this opinion. Wallahu subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is to go with your moistened yad over the khuffain. And the Khuffain, we're going to explain what the Khuffain truly means. Now, that's why I'm still using the word, right? So, we are going to have a look, and this is a rukhsa. A rukhsa meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitating, making something easier. And already here, we have the scholars differing. They are saying, so it is wiping over your leather socks. Let us say it like this for now. Later, I will discuss if these kind of socks are allowed or not. But now to make it easy, to wipe over your leather socks. So now the scholars, they differ already. They say, what is better? Now, is it better for a person to wipe over his socks, or is it better to take them off and wipe over and wash his feet? You see this? So they differ. And the reason why they differ is all because it is a rukhsa. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitating. So they say, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah loves it when you use the rules that He has descended down to facilitate things for you. So they say, well, Allah loves it, so that means it's better to do it. You see? But the other ones say that Allah loves it doesn't mean that He doesn't love the other one. Because the asl, the basic ruling is that you wash your feet. That's the basic ruling. So now the scholars differ, and the midway between all these differences, and they write pages about it, so I'm going to make it easy for you, is that if you are wearing your leather socks or other socks, you're already wearing them, then wiping over your socks is better. When your feet are not covered, then washing your feet is better. Is that clear? So that's the right middle way. What do I mean? For example, you say, okay, I have my socks on, but I do my wudu and I will take my socks off, so to wash my feet. then we could actually say, why are you not following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ when one of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum came to him and he wanted to take off the socks of the Prophet ﷺ while he was pouring the water of the wudu for him. And then he said, دعهما, leave them on, nam, فإني, because I have put my feet in them طاهرتين, while they were in a state of ritual ablution. So you see that the Prophet ﷺ, when they were on, he would say, leave them. You see? And when he would take them off and would be barefooted, then he would wash his feet. So this is the midway here. We will see that a lot of these ulama, they are of the opinion that it is mustahab, that it is recommended to do so. Now, I would like you to pay a lot of attention, because we are going to talk about the shurut, about the conditions that need to be present for you and for me to be allowed to wipe over these socks. Bismillah. If you drink some water. Somebody want some water? No, bismillah. The first thing is they say the first thing, if you want to be allowed to wipe over these socks, is that you wear them you put them on while you are in a state of wudu. Okay? That is what they agree upon. So they say, if you are in a state of wudu, that's the only time when you can put on your socks, and then you are allowed to wipe over them. All the questions that come into your mind, for how long, when does it start, all of this will be replied. All of this will be answered. وَلَكِنْ اخْتَلَفُوا, but they differed. They said, is it only valid when it is على طهارة تامة or not? What do I mean? Is it like now, for example, according to some fuqaha, sticking to the order of wudu is not obligatory. So you're not obliged to do first this, first that, and first this. But let us say we are from the opinion that you're obliged to wash everything in order. So they say, على طهارة تامة, they mean, if I have now washed my right foot, can I already put on my right sock? And then when I wash my left foot, I'm going to put on my left sock. That is where they differ. Some say no, it is only valid when you are entirely in the state of wudu. Is that clear? When you're in a state of wudu. And then there is the other difference that says no, from the moment you washed your right foot, you're allowed to put a sock on, and then when you wash your left one, you put on your left one. This is where they differ. But they all agree that your foot needs to be in a state of wudu before putting on the sock. Is that clear? So what we are looking at now, what I'm doing is not comparative studies. That's the highest studies of fiqh. What I try to do now is to share with you, to make us more tolerant. Now we want to be tolerant. I mean, all of these fuqaha, they differ. So let us look at why they differ, so that we understand, that we also understand that behind their opinions, there is some intellectual capacity. It is not just like, okay, I think this, I think that. It's a study. So anyway, so this is what we said. So now, so Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah azza wa jal, and the Ahnaf, they are the ones that say, that you don't need to be in a complete state of what? Of wudu. Naam? Okay, yes. And the Ahnaf. Okay, the Hanafi and the Hanabila. Okay, they say you. So Malik, like I said here, Malik and Shafi'i, naam, they are of the opinion, and in one opinion of Imam Ahmed as well, they say you need to be completely in tahara. The Hanaf, they say right foot, go ahead. Left foot, go ahead. Is that clear? Now the problem with the opinions of Imam Ahmed, that Imam Ahmed has more than 13 masail, 13 issues in fiqh, where he has more than 12 opinions. Just himself. You see? So this is why it is very difficult to find the correct opinion within the Hanbali madhab. If you're just reading a book, you won't know. You need scholars that teach you, that tell you like, watch out. Yani it's not because it's mentioned in a book that this is what the madhab is actually saying. Okay. So anyway, so this is how they look at it. Secondly, أن يكون نعم الخفين أو الخفان طاهرين. That the two socks are pure, clean of all impurities. So now if you are wearing these socks, you need to be sure that there are no impurities on these socks, because otherwise you're not allowed to go over them. But how can you define whether they are pure or impure? In our fiqh, we don't go by waswasa. We don't go by al-waswas. Meaning, oh, maybe there is an impurity which I do not see. No, it doesn't exist. You see, the impurity is built on yaqeen, on certitude. If it is solid, then it will need to stick to it. And if it is liquid, then the wet liquid should be seen, or one knows that he stepped on liquid and it was absorbed by the sock, then the sock needs to be washed. Is that clear? So this is how we go. But in brief, the asl, yani the basis is that your socks are tahir, not that they are najis. That they are clean and not that they have najasa on it. With the proof of the Prophet ﷺ one day praying, and then while he was praying, Jibreel alayhi salam came to him and he told the Prophet ﷺ to remove his sock. He said, because there is a najasa on it. Now you can ask, how can this be? This is the Prophet ﷺ, but like the Prophet ﷺ said himself, he said, Allah makes me forget لِأُشَرِّعَ, so that I would clarify the Sharia. So if the Prophet ﷺ, because sometimes the Imam of Mecca, maybe he prays for 20 years, he never makes a mistake in his raka'at. 20 years. Maybe Sudais in Shuraim, they pray, they were never corrected. Always Dhuhr 4, Asr 4, they never made a mistake, for example. So we say, why did the Prophet ﷺ then one day pray 2 instead of 4? Well, for this reason. Allah makes him forget, otherwise we wouldn't have known how to rectify our mistakes in prayer. Is that clear? So this is why the Prophet ﷺ did this, because it can be that we pray behind Mufti, for example, for 10 years or 5 years, and he doesn't make a mistake. So the mistakes that the Prophet ﷺ made in prayer, or the forgetfulness, was God-given, so that we would know how to rectify our shortcomings and mistakes in prayer. Is that clear? So this is what he said himself, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. Then the third condition is أن يكون ساترا لرجلين مع الكعبين. That these socks, they actually envelop, they cover the entire foot, or the part of the foot which needs to be washed. Okay, so you have these, these short socks. How do they call this? Ankle socks. They are right under the ankle, right? Yeah. So that when you wear these low gazelle sneakers, that you don't see your socks. So this is why they do it. You're not allowed to wipe over it. Let's say that they're made out of leather, right? So you're not allowed to wipe over it. Why? Because it doesn't cover the entire foot. أن يكون ساترا للرجلين إلى الكعبين, until both of the ankles. But here he said ولا يضر نعم, and that which doesn't affect it is if the sock would not stick to the upper part which is above the ankles, and you could see into the sock and you would see your ankles. That's okay. So sometimes these leather socks, when they get old, here, if this would be my foot, right, and this would be my ankle, here it would be a bit larger. So when you look into the sock, you would see your ankle. So that wouldn't be a problem. The thing is, the height should be covered, but it's not a condition that it sticks to it like skinny jeans, for example. That wouldn't be a condition. But that it covers it, that you can't see it from the sides, that's a condition. Okay, we will talk about holes in socks later on. So أن يكون ساترا للرجلين مع الكعبين من الجوانب فلا يضر نظرهما من أعلى خف واسع أو قصير الساق. Then استمساكه على الرجل بلا شد لثخانته. That's the fourth opinion. They say that the sock itself holds onto the feet without an external element tying it to the leg. Okay, we're not talking about so that you're not going with a rope around it. You have a leather bag, for example, put it over your foot, and then you tie it. That's not allowed. Okay, what is not clear for you? Yeah. Okay, so it shouldn't be put or stick to the foot by an external element. Now you can say, why are you doing this? Why are you complicating these things? Well, look, you will understand me straight away. The basic ruling, what is the basic ruling in the wudu? Is that you wash your feet. So that's the asl. That's the basis. So now wiping over your socks is an exception. So now this comes from Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. He says, so, and the basic ruling is mentioned in a straightforward ruling in Kitabillah. Above all, it's not a single hadith, but it is a strong ayah where it says, and all the ayahs are as strong, but I mean, it's an ayah saying, wash your feet. So now Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah says, oh, if we now say that this hadith is accepted, and he said, I didn't accept this hadith until 70 Sahaba radiallahu anhum mentioned that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam was doing this. حتى صار نعم واضحا كالشمس صحوا, until for me it was as clear as the sun at a cloudless sky. Okay, so when this came to him, so now they say the exception, we're not allowed to go away from the exception. So we need to look at the khuf at the time, the Khuffain in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How were they? Well, pure. 2, they would wear them when they would have wudu. 3, it would cover the entire foot. And 4, it would hold on to the foot by itself and not an external element. Why are we then looking at these things? Because it is already an exception and we don't make an exception on an exception. The only thing where the Ahnaf made, after this inshallah, made an exception is that they allowed for an other material than leather to be used. Okay? So the Ahnaf and later on also some of the Shafi'iyah, they made a difference. They said as long as the characteristics of leather are present in cotton socks, for example, then you are allowed also to wipe over them. What these qualities are, we will mention later on. What did you want to say, please?
On the leather socks that I see now, they've got zips on.
The zip is a part of it because it's not external, you know. So the zip indeed is still a part of the what? Of the sock. So even if you would have on the inside, you know, something attaching it, that would be different. But from the outside, attaching it to your foot, that wouldn't be the khuf of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes. No problem. No problem. Why do they say no problem? Because even the one with the pin, it has the zip, doesn't it? So even if you were to remove the pin, then the sock would still fit the foot, if you understand what I mean. Okay. So the reason why they say this, I will tell you, is they say al-khuffain, yani that the socks, if you were to put them on the ground, they should not fall. This is one of the conditions they say. Like these leather socks, when you put them like this, they stay like this. You can put them and they don't fall left or right, isn't it? So they say this is actually what is meant by not being in need of an external attachment to stick to your foot. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's carry on. استمساكه على الرجل بلا يعني بلا شد من غير أن يشد لثخانته ولقوته, because it's strong and it's what. Then he says خلو الخف نعم من الثقب الكبير, يعني so that the sock is free of a big hole in it. So when you have a sock, and let us say it's also allowed on cotton socks, which are very strong as forth, then there shouldn't be big holes in your sock. I'm getting there. All the questions you want to ask, you will see that they come. So the scholars said, يعني على قدر ثلاثة أصابع القدم. يعني not more than the space of 3 toes of your foot. Why do they say 3? Because 3, if you have 5, 3 is more than half, isn't it? And so that which is more than half can have hukm al-kull. It falls under the ruling of everything. So they say from the moment that there are 3, a space of 3 toes or more, then you are not allowed to wipe over them. Now, if these holes, you have many holes, and every hole, I'm talking about 1 foot, and if you have all of these holes together, it would be more than 3 toes, then that would also not be allowed. But if you have, when you combine the right foot and the left foot together, there's no problem. Every sock is going to be looked at separately, because the sock is there to give, to protect the state of the foot to remain in a state of wudu. Okay, and that's why we look at them separately. We're talking about wiping over socks when you're performing wudu. So very interesting. Sometimes when I talk about this, I really imagine that like someone who's not a Muslim comes in. So yes, brothers, they might think it's very strange, and it is strange from their perspective, isn't it? Like talking about socks and not too big, not too long, not too. So istimsakuhu ala rijli, we said that, and then that the holes are not too big, and then he says an yakuna al-khaffu qawiyya yumkinu mutaba'at al-mashi fihi adatan farsakha. He said, and that the sock is strong enough for you to walk on it. And he said, and this would be a farsakh. And a farsakh is 5,565 meters. A farsakh is 5,565 meters. So, what do they? It means, when I was in Jordan, they had socks and they were called gentleman socks. And they call man biddu gentleman. And who wants the gentleman socks? The best in the world. You never get them. They're not from China. These are the real ones. So anyway, so then everybody buys them, and then after a day you need to buy another one. So you buy these socks because they look good, but then you have to throw them away. If you were to walk on them from here till till the butcher, done. You can't walk on these socks. So these kind of socks, you're not allowed to wipe over them. Is that clear? You're not allowed to wipe over them. 1 minute.
Strong enough to walk.
5,565 meters. What?
The leather socks won't last that long.
Yes, they will. It's only 5 kilometers. 5 kilometers is 8 miles and a half.
Okay.
No, it's 3 miles.
What?
3 miles.
3 miles and a half. Yeah, it's nothing. These leather socks, they can. Even his socks. If you walk on the street with your socks, he goes to Birmingham and back. or Manchester, maybe. Yeah. So anyway, so they would say that his socks, for example, those who say that cotton socks are allowed, they would say that he can wipe over these socks. Why? Because they are not transparent. We're going too quick now. We're getting to that. Okay. So now to carry on. So we said that they are strong and that you can walk on it. We're still talking about leather socks only. We haven't given the exception yet. Okay. So they should be strong enough for you to walk on them. They shouldn't be transparent.
The next condition.
Huh? The next condition. Not transparent. So no plastic socks, for example. People do strange things today. So no plastic socks. And then also, they should be water resistant, not waterproof. There's a difference between water resistant and waterproof. Okay? So water resistant, you can wash your hands with a water resistant watch, under the tap. But you can't go diving with it. With a waterproof watch, you can. So that would be the difference. So because even these leather socks, there might be a very small gap, because it's made by hand usually, so the water can filter in and it might wetten your feet. So we're not going to say it is waterproof, it is water resistant, okay? So meaning that if a drop of water would fall on your sock, that it wouldn't go immediately to your what? To your skin. These socks, women have them, but men as well. Like you can see a bit, usually you can see the skin a bit under the sock. So when a drop of water falls on your foot, then you feel the wetness immediately on your skin. So that wouldn't be allowed. That sock, if a drop of water would fall on it, it wouldn't go immediately to your skin. So that would be considered to be water resistant up to a certain degree, okay? You're happy now, right? Yes. What? I'm going to have a look later. Then another one, which some of the ulama add to this, is that there is no haram inscription on the sock. Like a cross. Some socks, they have a cross on it. Yeah? Don't they? Yes. So, and that would then not be allowed.
What about like silhouettes of animals, like puma or whatever? Like silhouettes of, but it's black, but it's not.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Because it is not, the puma is not drawn with detail. You see like a shadow, but you don't see the details. That's no problem. But the problem is maybe some football teams, soccer teams, they have some really, crosses on their, and if you wear that, you're not allowed to wipe over it. Okay, so that's clear. Also, what I would, and there's nobody here, what I would really like to say is that the trainers of Kappa, do you know Kappa? It's a brand.
Yeah.
Some people wear it, and in reality, it are two undressed
Yeah. Man and woman.
man and woman. Actually, that's what it is. And you get I got so used to it. People even come to the prayer and they pray in it. So this is not allowed. Okay, that is haram. It's not correct. Okay, so let's continue. So how long can we now wipe over these socks? Meaning not, keep on wiping over them, but the time we're in, the time frame. For a resident, meaning it is 24 hours. 24 hours, a day and a night. For the traveler, it is 72 hours, 3 days and 3 nights. According to Imam Malik, غير محدد بوقت. There is no time frame. You can do it for as long as you like. As long as you put them on when you're in a state of wudu, then you can wipe over them for as long as you like. You do not need to take them off. As we said, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmed, when you're a traveler, 72 hours, and when you're a resident, it is 24 hours. Do you want to ask from when do we start counting?
No.
No.
So the conditions, you finished, right?
What?
Conditions.
Yes.
Are they 9?
9, or you can say, yeah. I don't know. You have them. Okay, is that point clear? Now, those like the Ahnaf, the Shafi'iyya, and the Hanabila, who say that it is connected to time, they exclude people who are in need of keeping them on. Meaning, if you were, for one reason or another, you're, I don't know, you're an Eskimo, or you need to go for your job, you're investigating a global heating of the earth, and you need to go to Alaska, for example. Well, if you take your socks off, well, you also take your feet off. If you're out in the snow and you say, okay, I gotta pray, it has been 3 days now, Bismillah, socks off, water up, your feet get frozen, they fall off, end of story. You have no feet to wash anymore. So now the scholars, they say that these people, they are exempt from the basic ruling. So if you live also at very high altitudes and you have no, for example, wood or whatever to warm yourself, and if then taking off your your Khuffain, sorry, would lead to you becoming sick or your foot to be, to freeze and to lose your foot, they say then no, you keep your sock on. They would even go as far as to say you are obliged to keep it on, because otherwise you will expose yourself to harm. And the Prophet ﷺ said, لا ضرر ولا ضرار. Yani we are not allowed to harm others nor ourselves. Is that clear? So this is what they say. Well, those like Imam Malik rahimahullah azza wa jalla, who says that that it is not connected to time, of course he has a dalil, which is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like in the Mustadrak of Imam al-Hakim and like in the Sunan of Imam al-Bayhaqi, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told one of his companions, and he said at the end, Ya Rasulullah, can I keep, when I'm traveling, can I keep them on for 2 days? He said yes. For 3 days? He said yes. And then he asked, and for 3 days? He said, Naam wa ma shi'ta. Yani, yes, and for as long as you like. You see? So this is the proof that, the Malikiya go by. And we have the other one where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam made it very clear in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad and the Sahih of Ibn Hibban, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Al-mashu ala al-khuffayn lil-musafiri thalatha. Al-mashu ala al-khuffayn lil-musafiri thalatha. Yani that a traveler is allowed to what? To wipe over his socks for 3 days. So now when we take them together, then of course we have a problem, right? Here we see that Imam Malik has another hadith. But this hadith, the majority of the scholars say that this hadith is da'if and muttarib. And it's weak and we can't put it into practice. But this is only when we look at it in al-Hakim. But I'm sure that Imam Malik had another chain of narration for this hadith, which he found strong enough to build his opinion on. Is that clear? So this is very important. Like sometimes people say, no, the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa is weak. Why is it weak? Well, because the hadith in Abu Dawood is weak. I say, I'm sorry, but Abu Hanifa lived before Abu Dawood. Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah died in 150. So you can't judge the A'immatul Arba'a, you can't judge them by the asanid, the chains of narration, which we find in the books of the Sunnah. Does that make sense? No? So you can't say like the Ahnaf, they say, okay, and this is the dalil, this is the hadith we use. And then you say no, because in Al-Hakim or in At-Tirmidhi or Ibn Majah, it is weak. We say they didn't go through Tirmidhi. They were before Tirmidhi. Use that. You see? So when they actually take a hadith, meaning that for them, there was a chain of transmission which was strong enough for them to build their fiqh on. And in these times, not everybody always used to narrate the hadith with a chain of narration. Of course, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal did, Imam Malik in his Muwatta did as well, and Imam Shafi'i in his, but very often they wouldn't mention a chain of narration. Is that clear? So we can't judge the A'immat al-Arba'a bima fi kutub sunnah, in the light of of the hadith we find in the Sunan or in the Sihah. Does that make sense? And this is what Imam al-Laknawi rahimahullah azza wa jal made very clear in his book الرفع والتكميل عن أئمة الجرح والتعديل. Imam al-Laknawi muhaddith Hanafi has a book about these kind of issues. So okay, we continue. Allah. Then what is how are we going to know what annuls the Mas'al al-Khuffain? What makes it invalid? And this is the next thing that we need to look at. The first thing which makes it invalid is exactly the same as which makes wudu invalid. So that what makes wudu invalid also makes the Mas'al al-Khuffaini invalid. This is number one. Two is when you run out of time. So you're a resident, now your 24 hours have passed. After 24 hours and 1 minute, Khalas, done. Your feet are no longer in a state of wudu. So now the scholars say, what you can do now is take off your socks and wash your feet. You don't have to redo all the wudu. Why? Because all your body was in a state of wudu, wasn't it? Your face, your arms, everything was in wudu. That which was preserving your feet to stay in a state of wudu were the socks. So the moment you take them off, you wash your feet and put your socks on, then some of the scholars said that this is correct. Why? Because the only thing which lost its wudu were your feet. You didn't lose it because of wind, because you went to the toilet, or because you slept. You were in a state of wudu. The only thing you did was taking off your socks. So now, also from the moment you take off your socks and you leave them off, then you are not in a state allowing you to what? To pray if the time has elapsed. Is that clear? Okay. So now let's continue. So the first thing which annuls your wudu is what? No, is everything which annuls annuls your mas'h al-Khuffain is what? Is that which annuls the wudu. The second thing is time. Look now, I am a traveler. I'm a traveler. How many hours do I have according to the three? 72 hours. I was traveling for 50 hours and I come back in town where I live. How long can I wipe over my Khuffain now? 24? Everybody? 24? Nope. You have to take them off. Because as a resident, that time has already elapsed. So you can't complete that time. It's already gone. Does that make sense? But if I come as a traveler and 18 hours have elapsed and I come back, then I still have 6 hours.
So that time is included in the...
Yes. But now I'm a resident and I was wiping over my socks for 23 hours. Now I travel. How many hours do I have left? 49. 49 hours left. You see this? So the time will already be included. Now if I wiped over my socks for 24 hours and 1 minute and now I travel, how many do I have? Yes, exactly. I have to take them off again and wash my feet again. Yes. In fiqh, we don't talk about spirituality. In fiqh, accountability, angels or not. In fiqh, we talk about rules. But if you really want to know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-Hasib. And the only reason why He appointed angels and so much more is for us to have a hujjah on the Day of Judgment, that there were witnesses and so much more. But in reality, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-Hasib. He's al-Hasib. He's al-Khabir. يعني المخبر والمخبر. And al-Mukhbar, the one who is informed, not because he doesn't know, but because he wants the one that informs to be reminded of what he knows. No? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the informed. He's not informed because he doesn't know. When he's informed, is because he wants to want that things that he informs is in him to be reminded of what he knows. That's the only reason. And this is always why you see when the Prophet ﷺ says, and then the angels, and then Allah tells them, وَمَاذَا قَالَ عَبْدِي? And what did my servant say? Then the Prophet ﷺ always adds, وَهُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِهِ. And he knows the servant better. And in another hadith, مَاذَا قَالُوا? مَاذَا يَخَافُونَ? What do they fear? وَهُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِهِمْ. And he knows better. So Allah Jalla wa Ala is al-Hasib. So he takes this into account. But anyway, we need to watch out because our wudu is connected to this. And if we make a mistake, then we have no wudu. If we have no wudu, then we have no salah. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَقْبَلُ صَلَاةَ عَبْدٍ إِذَا أَحْدَثَ حَتَّى يَتَوَضَّأَ. Allah does not accept the salah of a servant who lost his wudu until he performs wudu. No? So we need to watch out for these kind of things. Okay. Now, some scholars say, okay, that which annuls your wudu as well, or your mas'h al khuffain, is take them out until you're no longer able to walk on them. So they say, if this is my heel, right? So I'm sorry, I can't do like this. So this is my foot, are my ankles, and this is my heel. If my sock now exposes my heel, that means that all of this is unveiled, and then the front of your sock will be like this. Then you are no longer wearing the khuf. But if you were to scratch your ankle, and a part of your ankle would be exposed, then that wouldn't be a problem. That wouldn't be a problem, and your wudu would then still be valid. Okay? So some people, they freak out and they say, oh no, I went like this, maybe my my ankle was exposed. That's no problem, because you are still wearing the khuf. So it goes back to the urf of what wearing the sock or not wearing the sock in a proper way truly means. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. Okay. So in the Maliki fiqh, you have that if you take off your socks while you are in a state of wudu, that you can, if you wash your feet immediately, that your wudu would still be valid. Okay? So that meaning that if you were to come back from your journey, you traveled 50 hours, you're in a state of wudu, you wiped over your socks, now you're a resident, take off your socks, wash your feet, put them on again, and then you're still in a state of wudu. Is this the best thing to do? No. Why? Because there is a reward for wudu. So why would you say, oh no, I'm just going to wash my feet? You would probably do this if you're afraid that the prayer time, that you don't have time to perform the entire wudu and still pray a rak'ah on time. Then we would say do this. If that's not the case, then we would advise you to perform the wudu entirely. Now, even though that you're only in need of washing your feet, according to Imam Malik rahimahullah azza wa jal. Okay, does that make sense? So now, wiping over cotton socks. Wiping over cotton socks. There are three conditions, or the scholars, sorry, not three conditions. They mentioned three things. They said, على المجلدين يجوز. على المجلدين. الجوربان المجلدان. What does that mean? It are socks, and the top of it or the bottom of it is in leather, and the rest is a sock. You never saw that? That the material here, all of this is cotton, but on the bottom there is leather. You never saw that? SubhanAllah, I did. Under it's leather, and the rest is a sock. Or sometimes you have it's above it. No? So this is mujalladan. Yani is where the leather is down and up, both. And then we have al-muna'alani. Al-muna'alan. And the muna'alan is either up or either down. Okay? So it's a cotton sock. And in al-mujalladan, yani it is up and down. And in al-muna'alan, it is what? It's down. It's down. Not up. It's just down, sorry. Yeah. So mujalladan, up and down, and muna'alan is just down. Okay? So they agree. They say that's no problem because it's good. But then the later scholars, they say الثخينان الجوربان الثخينان يعني thick socks. And the Malikiya don't agree. But in the Hanafi fiqh, we say yes. Yeah, there is a possibility. It is legit for you to wipe over these socks as long as they look a lot like the leather socks. Meaning, you can walk on them. 2, not with an external element being attached. 3, water resistant up to a certain level. Meaning, if it drops on your foot, you don't feel it immediately on your skin. Now, some socks you feel it immediately. That they are halal, yani that you didn't steal these socks, that you haven't a cross on the socks, or that you haven't 666 on the sock or whatever, or a pyramid with an eye in it, and these kind of things, you don't do that. You don't wipe over that. This istihza. And also watch out that there are no religious things on it out of respect. Sometimes some of these things, subhanAllah, people do strange things. Once there was a shoe of Nike that was brought out in the name of Allah, was in the in the shape, yeah, and the sole as well in the. So this is subhanAllah dangerous. So we don't do that, but we don't do this with other religions either. So we're not going to to dishonor the symbols of other religions, even though that we don't believe in them, and we don't believe them to be true. Okay, so this is al-mashu ala al-jawrabayn al-thakinayn. So this is permissible according to Imam Abu Hanifa, to the Ahnaf, and also according to the Hanabila. Now the Ahnaf and the Hanabila, they say there is no problem with this. Okay. Imam Abu Hanifa himself, at the very beginning, he didn't allow the person to wipe over the thick socks. They existed back then as well. They were made out of fur and other things. And he didn't allow that, but they say 3 days or 7 days before he died, he said, I allow now what I was always declaring to be forbidden. And he did it himself. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Okay, this is what I wanted to say about the al-mashu ala ماذا? Al-Khuffain. So now, let us say, are you allowed to wipe over the shoes that you are wearing over the socks? You know, the shoes that you wear over your socks. It is always the same condition. Yes, you are, as long as you wore them while you were in the state of a tahara. So now, if I wipe over my socks, and then I lose my wudu, I go to the bathroom, and I wipe over my socks now, after putting them on tahara, and now I put on my shoes, I'm not allowed to wipe over my shoes, because I was not in a state of complete tahara. Is that clear? But if I put on my shoes while I am in a state of tahara, under the socks I'm wearing, tahara kamila, غير مجددة, then I am allowed to what? To wipe over these shoes, as long as they have the same conditions, that they cover my entire foot. So if they are below my ankles, once again, I'm not allowed to wipe over them. Okay? So now the scholars, what they also mentioned, a lot of them said, al-mashu ala a'la fardun wal-mashu ala al-asfal sunnah. Some said, watch out, I know that you're going to mention what Ali radiallahu anhu said. Ali radiallahu anhu, he said, yani, if the deen were to be with the aql, then he said, لكان أعلى الخف ماذا؟ أسفل أيوة أولى. It doesn't exclude the asfal. Is that clear? أولى لا يلغي ما يأتي بالمرتبة الثانية. تفهم ولا لا؟ Okay. Oh, this gets priority. So he said, if the deen would be with aql, then the bottom of the shoe, of the sock, would get priority over the what? The top of it. Now, so he's saying by this, yani the hukum of it, the fardiyya. So this is why some of the scholars say, yani the fard of it is the upper side. But it doesn't exclude that we can also do the what? The bottom of it. It all depends if there is a lot of dust on it or not. So if you see that your sock is quite messy, well, then you are going to clean this. Is this then a part of wudu? That is where they differ once again. You see? So they say, so they say the upper part and the lower part, according to some fuqaha, they are both done. But the upper part is fard, and the lower part is, according to some, mustahab, and to some it is allowed, and to some it is not a part of it. Okay? No. The thing is now, all the arguments that come into your head, know that your imams had 20 to shoot back at you. When they say this, don't think they didn't know what Ali radiallahu anhu said. I mean, if we think this, I'm not saying you have it, no. If we think this, then we are having a problem. If we think that we now here we're saying, well, no, but Ali radiallahu anhu was saying this and that, and he's saying, oh, okay, yes, you're right. Yes, Imam Malik didn't know that. Yes, okay, carry on. You see, so the thing is here, I am sharing things, and I know you know things, and I know many things you can say, and then I know many things to say back to you. This is not what we are doing. We are mentioning the heritage of what exists. My point is not to convince you. My point is to share with you what exists. Is that clear? So that you know. My point is not for you to say, yes, okay, now on I'm going to wipe the back of it and the front of it. And that's not what we are saying. So how are we going to wipe off our socks? They say with 3 fingers from the toes straight up to the height of the ankles. That is the asl of it. They say that if you were to do the sides, that it wouldn't be correct. Why? Because that's not the top of it. And the fard is the top of it. You see? So even those who say the bottom of it, they would say if you only do the bottom, it's not correct. Why? Because the fard is the top. So now what some people do when they wear their shoes, sometimes they don't want to, open their laces and everything. So they're going just like to do the sides and a bit under the tongue of the shoe. You go under it and this is not allowed. This doesn't validate your mashu al khuffain. So it is with 3 fingers at least. Why do we say 3? As we said, ثلاثة من خمسة لها حكم الكل. Now 3 of 5 has the ruling of a whole, because that's more than the half of it. So they say, like with 3, if you wipe with 3, you have wiped over the majority of your foot. Okay. So when you do this, you have your mashu al khuffain, and it is a valid one. Now, some say that what gets priority is that you do the 3, but you also do it with your hand palm. And so you're going, if this is your foot, you're going to wipe over everything which is the top of your sock. They say because your the khuffain, your 2 leather socks, are replacing your wudu. So you need to wipe over that which you are supposed to wash. The top of it, fardan. And the bottom of it, what? Sunnatan or istihbaban. Istihbaban. It's liked and recommended. One of the reasons they say, why Habibi, is because we have 2 qira'at. We have 2 qira'at, صح? One is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُولَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. أَرْجُولَكُمْ. That means wipe over your heads and wash your feet. But in Shu'bah we're going to say that the other qira'ah says, وَامْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُولِكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. And wipe over your heads and wipe over your feet. It means. So now they say the wiping over the feet is wiping over the khuffain, not over the feet themselves. But they say Allah said about wudu, wash the feet. And now He says wipe over the feet. So if we say that washing is the top and the bottom of the foot, then the mash also in this ayah includes the top and the bottom of the foot. And this is how they got to this conclusion. Does it make sense now? So I didn't want to mention this because then we always have to go into more detail, and that's our second level. In our second level of fiqh, we're really going to dive into grammar and usul, and maybe you're going to run out and I will be alone with myself. But I don't care, because then I'm with the ulama, right? But I would care because you are my friends. That sounded a bit so like I have no friends. Allah, the best friends are the ones you gather with to talk about religion. That are friends. Other friends, they just lose your time. They come, they talk about nothing. An hour passes, 3, 4, 5, qeel wa qal, and then they go, you have a headache, you lost time with your family, they are waiting for you, but you're so tired of hearing everything that you just want to go out. But when you have this, you know that this setting will be inshallah the same setting we will have under the arsh. You know, قوم يعني that came together out of love for Allah and His religion. I mean, this is something incredible. So now we have Bab al-Tayammum. Bab al-Tayammum. So we know the most important things about, yes.
How many times?
Just one. Just one. One time. That's all. يعني كل ما يمسح عليه فالمسح عليه أكثر من مرة بدعة واعتداء. Okay? So everything that you need to rub over is only rubbed over once. And more than this is al-i'tida. Yani is what? It's transgression. Yeah, not aggression. Like you're hitting on your foot. So exactly, it's transgression, the Prophet ﷺ said. And he made this clear himself, alayhi salam, yes.
So when you have to do simultaneously or one?
Simultaneously, according to those who say just the top, those who say both, if this would be the foot, like this, okay, that's the ankle, that's the foot. They would go, if they do the right foot, they would put the right hand on top, the left hand at the bottom, and they would go simultaneously until they would come to the ankle. The left foot would be the left hand on top. Why? Because that's the fard, the top, and then you would go with your right one over the bottom of your foot. And that would be, according to them who say the bottom and the top of the foot of the sock need to be rubbed over, wiped.
Just on the tops, I'm not allowed to do this and doing this.
You can, it's no problem. Yeah, simultaneously, or you this first, that first, it's no problem. Yeah. Yes.
Is it the same for the shoes?
Excuse me.
Is it the same for the shoes?
It's same for the shoes. Yeah. But you came in a bit late.
That's why.
Yeah. We spoke about shoes.
Okay.
Yes. No.
So if you're wearing shoes, you're probably going to take off your shoes to pray. What's it okay? You wipe over the shoes.
If you wiped over your shoes and not over your socks, then if you take out of your shoes, you need to wipe over your socks. Is that clear? Unless you wiped over your socks and then you put on your shoes, and you didn't wipe over your shoes yet, then when you take off your shoes, you can just pray. Is the difference clear? Yeah. No. If you take the layer off, like you have three layers of socks in the winter, and the layer over which you wiped, if that one is removed, then you need to wipe over the layer which is beneath it. If you understand what I mean. But if now I wipe over my second pair of socks and I put on a third one, I pray, I do everything, I didn't break my wudu, I take off my third pair of socks and I'm in my second pair of socks, and there is no problem. But the second pair I can only put on if I have wiped over my first pair of socks and I was in a state of wudu when putting on the second pair. No. Just don't wear two pair of socks. Socks, and in Turkey they make very good socks. They call them wudu socks. I have a pair of them. They're so good. Even if you walk through water, your feet won't become wet. They make it especially for the wudu, for the mas'h al Khuffain. So they're elastic. They're elastic. Try to look them up. I have a pair of them, and they're very good for your feet as well. Especially if you have diabetes, then your feet need to be protected, and then this is very good protection. Yeah. No.
So you said if you are wearing two pairs of socks,
Mm-hmm.
so I have wudu, and then when I put two pairs, I need to wipe the first one and then the second one.
No, now there's no problem. If you wear both of them at the same time in state of tahara, you can wipe over the outward layer. Okay. Now.
بالنسبة للوقت مال 24 ساعة
نعم.
نحسب أول مسحة
هذا سؤال وارد وهو جميل. يعني أهل العلم قد اختلفوا، فبعض الحنابلة ذهبوا إلى أن الوقت يدخل من أول ما تمسح على الجوربين. بعضهم قالوا لا، بل الوقت يبدأ من ابتداء ما تلبس الجوربين. وهذا القول أضعف. والقول الأقوى أن الوقت يبدأ من وقت ما يكون وضوءك ناقضا. The moment that you break your wudu. Okay? They say because from the moment you break your wudu, the hukm of the Khuffain have started.
When you break the wudu.
When you break your wudu.
It means, okay.
Okay?
You make straight away another wudu.
No, you don't have to make it straight away. That's not a condition.
You don't, but
Yes, but the waqt starts there.
that's not.
Okay, so I'm going to tell for you as well. So now the question is, when do the 24 hours start counting on your chronometer? Huh? So we can make an app for this, right? The Mashu al-Khuffain app. So when does it start? They say, well, the weakest one is when they say from the moment you put them on, it starts. We say no, because the sock isn't serving yet. As long as you are in the state of wudu when you put them on, then your sock is only being worn for its essential reason, which is covering your feet. It has still nothing to do with wudu. They say, but from the moment you break your wudu, now it starts counting, because now your khuf has a second reason. And that second reason is you being a wipe over it. You see this? So they say it doesn't start when you wipe for the first time. It starts when you are allowed to wipe over it for the first time. Because this is where the legitimacy of wiping starts. So, and the latter that say it starts when you wipe for the first time is one of the opinions within the Hanbali madhab. So, but the opinion seems to be that what? It starts from the moment you break your wudu, because that is where you are allowed to start wiping over your socks. So your socks now fall under another hukm. Ya Rabbi, socks. It's so incredible, isn't it? We've been talking for an hour about socks. I like it. So, okay, is everything clear about socks? Yeah.
بالنسبه للوضوء
نعم.
لما تغسل اليمين
ايوه
وتلبس
ايوه
الحال نشفت رجلك
ايوه.
فهل يصير الوضوء مالتك صحيح قبل ما تخلص الوضوء نشفت عضو من اعضاء الجسم؟
يعني هل تعيد السؤال من جديد لو سمحت؟
لما تغسل رجلك اليمين
لأول مرة يعني.
بتتوضا
اتفضل. ايوه.
بعض الاعضاء تغسل رجلك اليمين وتخلي
وتلبس الخف. ايوه.
وبعدين تغسل اليسار
وتلبس الخف.
بس هالحاله نشفت رجلك.
ايوه.
فانت هل وضوءك صح؟
نعم طبعا وضوءك يكون صحيحا.
انت بعدك ما مخلص الوضوء ونشفت عضو من اعضاء الجسم.
لا، وضوءك يكون صحيحا، لا علاقة له بذلك. نعم. وياكم. نعم. Yes. But that is not what he was asking.
If you wash your right foot first and then take it, so you are interrupting.
No, that's not interrupting. They say هي من أعمال الوضوء. And so this is why if you look, for example, I'm going to give you an example. In المقدمة العزية للجماعة الأزهرية للإمام أبو الحسن المالكي, he says that if you take water, he says you have a bucket of water. When you have a bucket of water, I'm sorry, I'm going into detail now, right? So this is in المقدمة العزية. It's a very nice book in the Maliki fiqh. So he says, look, if you have a bucket of water, you are one of the three people. He says, either when you fill the bucket, you say, this will be enough for my wudu. Or you say, I think it will be enough for my wudu. Or you say, I don't think it will suffice, but maybe it's sufficient. تكون من إحدى ثلاث. يعني one of these three. Do we agree? Do you know fourth one? No. Sure, maybe, not sure. No, I don't think so. He says, فهؤلاء, these three, they differ. He says, if this person goes back to his house with his bucket, back in the time they needed to go to the well, right? They didn't have tap water. And he goes back, he performs wudu, and subhanallah, he hasn't got sufficient for his left foot. But he is of the category who said to himself, this is sufficient. فيجوز له أن يذهب إلى أقرب البئر وكذلك إلى أبعد البئر. This man is allowed to go to the well the furthest away or the most nearby to get water and to what? And to wash his left foot. Because this is still considered to be of a'mal al-wudu. Are you with me? The one that wasn't sure, he said, I think, but I'm not sure, he can only go back to the nearest place of water. If he goes further than this, his wudu is batila. The third one who said, I don't think it's a thing, but let me try, his wudu, and he needs to start all over again when he gets back to the well. Because his a'mal of al-wudu, az-za'ida, is due to his own shortcomings. Okay? So that would be the same thing now. For example, you're performing wudu, tap water. You don't know why. One of the children played with the boiler and the water is like very, very hot. So you start, you go, Allahu Akbar, what's happening? So now what you are going to do, you are allowed to go to the boiler, you are allowed to set the temperature, and to come back and to continue with your wudu, even if your wudu has dried. Even if it had dried up. Because they say one of the proofs that there is muwalat, that there is continuation, is that one member is still wet before you wash the other one. But they say if it has dried up because you were occupied in enabling yourself to perform wudu, then you are still in your wudu. Does that make sense? Of course, the ulama, like in Zad al-Mustaqni', or like in Sharh al-Mumti', he says like, look, this is of course when the temperature and the conditions are normal conditions. Why? Imagine you performing wudu in the rain. You remain wet all the time. So you say, I have wudu and I'm going to play some football. Oh, my right arm is still wet, so I can do my left one after my game. No, because this is not a normal situation. When I was in Sudan, you would, without exaggerating, pour a bucket of water over yourself. 30 seconds later, you're dry. So if I now wash my right arm, I don't exaggerate, and I go to my bucket to take my water, my right arm is dry before I wash my left one. So they say the muwalat لا يعني لا تنطبق على يعني it does not apply to one, people who are occupied in enabling themselves to perform the wudu, and two, to people in the rain, and three, to people in the desert. And apart from that, khalas. Okay? So now, if a person were to, Champions League is on, you want to pray Maghrib, and you're performing wudu, and all of a sudden you hear, yes, goal, and you go and you're going to have a look, you interrupted your wudu. Because هذا ليس من أعمال الوضوء. Because this is not a part of the wudu nor of facilitating your wudu. So you need to start all over again. Some say you need to start over if the wudu is wet. It isn't wet anymore, sorry. As long as it is wet, there wouldn't be a problem and you would still be allowed to what? To continue with your left one. What do they mean with wet? They don't mean moistened. They mean that the water is still dripping. So most likely when you go and you have a look at the goal and you come back, it will be moist, but the water won't be dripping anymore. So this is an interruption which is too long, which annuls your wudu and you need to start all over again. Okay? So that is why I gave the answer to him. Because it's of a'mal al-wudu. No. Yes, sir.
So when you clean, you just clean with the front. You don't need to clean with the front and the back.
No, exactly, no. And you don't need to do the bottom of your feet, no. It's the fard which the Prophet ﷺ showed us was the top. But we have the scholars saying we also do the bottom. Why? Because of the qira'ah. يعني وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم. يعني وامسحوا يعني وامسحوا بأرجلكم. Yes.
You said wiping. So is it this enough or you need to go like this?
No. Only the top. You don't need to go to the sides. So that's enough. Do it again. That's sufficient. Yeah. And you moisten. You don't need to wetten. Just a bit of, a bit in the water and go over it. Yes. You had a question?
Yeah, wait. So because obviously, the reason I brought this up is because obviously I see people do this and then this. Is that incorrect?
No, you don't have to do this. Just that side is sufficient. But your wudu would still be valid if you were to do it. No.
If you're talking, having a conversation,
Yes. We should. This is also very important. In the books of fiqh, they very often talk about adab al-wudu. Adab al-wudu, in a lot of books, are the things which the scholars advise you to do, but for which there won't be a straightforward dalil. No? And they do it out of tarbiyah, of education, educational reasons. And they found people, like if you look at Zayn al-Abidin, the great grandson of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he used to perform wudu, and تغير وجهه, his face changed, the color of his face. He was frightened. You would see that he was mahmoom, he was worried. And when people asked him, why are you in this state? He said, don't you understand that I'm preparing myself to stand in front of the King of Kings? That was their hal in wudu. So now they found that people no longer made the connection between wudu and standing in front of the king. And this is why you find in the many books of hadith, of fiqh, where they say, don't talk about dunya when you perform wudu. Is there a dalil? Not at all. To come with a clean heart to the mosque. If people were to talk, we can't tell them what you are doing is bad, because there is no dalil. But we can tell them it's better not to talk. So they should also respect when somebody doesn't want to talk. And sometimes they try to, look for you. So brother, why don't you talk to me when you're performing wudu? Is it haram? Did the Prophet ﷺ tell us not to do it? I said, brother, I'm just, preparing myself to stand in front of Allah. So what? You can talk about anything, even about food. So they force it on you. Khalas, adab. And this is also why, for example, you see in books of fiqh, it is better to do the wudu in the direction of the qibla. Is there a dalil? No dalil. Why do they do it? From an educational point of view. The same thing like Imam Shurumulali, rahimahullah azza wa jal, he says in his book, he says in his book, Maraqi Sa'adat, he says that when you perform wudu out of a bucket, he says, then drink the remaining water. He says, why? He says, because it is water, you're not allowed to throw it away. He said, either drink it, or either you do it over some plants, you give them to drink. And but others say, no, don't even give it to plants or trees. Why? Because when you perform wudu, your sins come out with the drips of wudu, so you're not supposed to give it to a tree. Are you giving your sins to a tree? So they think about everything. So, and then you can say, okay, then, but why do you drink it then? Are you drinking your sins? So at least do something good with the water. And this is what they are saying. And that's also why, for example, Imam Shurumulari says, and when you perform the wudu on a height, so that the water flows down. Especially when you do ghusl, they say, perform ghusl at a place which is higher than the place where the water is flowing through to. Because otherwise you will stand in used water, al-ma' al-musta'mal, water that you have already used to clean yourself, and your feet will be in there. And this is why a lot of the Hanabila, they give the example, they give the advice that if you keep your feet when you do your greater washing until the end, until you get away from the place where you are standing, and then you wash your feet separately at the very end. Why? So that you don't stand in the ma' al-musta'mal, and that you actually use the same water which you have used for your ghusl a second time. So this is what they call the adab. The adab meaning very often where there is no dalil. But no dalil doesn't mean it's not good to do. Don't forget this. No dalil means no dalilun khas, but there can be a dalilun am. Meaning there is no hadith specifying something, but there are many general adillah telling us to perform wudu with a presence of heart, we're doing this or doing that. And this is what the scholars also rely on. You see? So it's not always a straightforward dalil. And also the Prophet ﷺ not doing something doesn't always mean it's a bid'ah. The bid'ah is doing something he didn't did when replacing something that he... Anyway, we're going too far. Read the book of Imam al-Shatibi, al-Muwafaqa al-I'tisam, and you will have a correct opinion of al-bid'ah. So is that clear? Sorry. This is the adab of so I think a tayammum, I hope you're not in need of tayammum for next week. Inshallah. So do we have any other questions? Excuse me?
Many questions.
What did you say?
I have a problem with the shoes thing.
You have a problem with shoes.
With the shoes, yeah.
Why do you have a problem with shoes?
Because I see people, like mostly nowadays, most of the youngsters, in fact,
Uh-huh.
when they go out, they make wudu and they keep their shoes on
Mm-hmm.
and they pray. I come from a culture where never do such thing, okay? It's like forbidden, it's like taboo.
No,
You have to take your shoes off,
I will.
okay? And when I came here, everybody is like they pray with their shoes on.
Yeah.
It was shocking at first for me.
I think to start with, I think the majority of them are not allowed to wipe over their shoes because they will be not covering the ankle. So that is already not allowed.
My problem is that how on earth somebody be sure that his shoes are clean?
Habibi, we spoke about this before you came.
Because myself, I want to go to the bathroom, to the toilet, public toilet, to make wudu.
Mm-hmm.
It's dirty.
Mm-hmm.
How come I'm wearing those shoes? So that's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have to take them off, right? In that case, I cannot make wudu with that shoe.
When you know that your shoes have absorbed something najis, then you're not allowed to pray in them until you clean them. Yes, that's 100% sure.
But like, police, they do this and they
Inshallah, try to listen to the recording because we spoke about najasa, visible najasa, invisible najasa, and so much more. Okay, let's continue.
I have a question related to
No, only that which is related, barakallahu fikum. Especially in fiqh, because you know I talk a lot, and then we go all to it. Yeah.
I read that for doing wudu, fard is doing once and sunnah is 3 times.
Yes.
Is there specific
No.
when you can do
One is fard, 2 is sunnah, 3 is mustahab.
Okay. Is there any specifics when you can only do one?
You can always only do one.
For no
You're even for no reason, but the problem is they say you wouldn't be a sinner, but maybe you do it because you're looking down upon the sunnah, like sunnah is not that important. That would then be your sin. So the sin would not be only doing once. The sin can be the reason why you are only doing once. Is the difference clear? So this is where they differentiate. So this is why I wouldn't advise to always do once, because it can lead to looking down upon the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, somebody else? At what time do they pray now?
48.
48. 58? No? 48, yeah. Okay. Now.
If I'm mistaken, wudu and
Sorry, you have a class? Okay. So that's the last question. Yeah.
just if I'm mistaken, wudu and other pray can, and I want to make another wudu, and I wear socks. So, but thin socks, not thin. So I have to take it off and wash it again, or I can keep it.
أنا ما فهمت السؤال.
لو أنا
بلهجتك يعني.
متوضي.
أيوة.
جي وقت صليت الصلاة الأولى، جي
أيوة.
وقت الصلاة الثانية،
أيوة.
فحبيت أتوضى تاني.
أيوة.
أعمل الوضوء عادي وأشيل السوكس بتاعي وأغسل رجليا ولا أمسح على الوضوء؟
إذا كنت على وضوء تمسح عليها.
كنت على وضوء.
إيه تمسح عليها.
مش محتاج إن أنا أقلعها.
لا اللهم إلا إذا انتقض وضوءك فينبغي لك أن تزيله. أي نعم.
بس حبيت أجدد الوضوء.
لا إذا تجدد الوضوء تمسح عليه ما في مشكلة. لا تنزعها. ولا يشترط أن تلبسها بنية المسح عليها. هذا مش شرط كمان. يعني so also the last thing I told him is also very important. It's not a condition that when you put these socks on that you had the intention I want to wipe over them. That is not what? A condition that you say, okay, but when I put them on, I didn't have the intention. No problem. When you wore your clothes in the morning, you didn't say, I do this to do satr al-awra to pray, did you? You just said, I'm going to wear clothes. But you didn't say, I'm wearing my clothes now so that I can pray dhuhr later on. So even in wearing your clothes, you don't need the niyyah to cover your awra to pray. If you're covered, you're covered, and you're not in need of a new niyyah for that. So that's exactly the same with المسح على الخفين والله سبحانه وتعالى أعلى وأعلم وأجل وأعز وأحكم. I have to go. Yes.
Have you gone through all the parts of wudu already over the last few weeks, months?
Did we?
I just because I've missed so many Sundays. I think we did. I just want to that what I need to catch
I
up.
wasn't here in Ramadan. So
Okay. I know we spoke about wudu. Yeah. Okay, so next week inshallah is tayammum. It will be every week. Try to take some people with you because I think they will learn more.
Yeah, I think
Inshallah. Excuse me?
I think wudu is very important.
Yes,
There's
inshallah.
many things I need to ask about.
Yes, inshallah. So next week is a tayammum, and then we might go very quickly over wudu first, and then we will go bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala to kitab al-salah, and we will have a look at everything which has to do with it. Salat al-Eid, Salat al-Istisqa, Salat al-Musafir, Salat Ahli al-Udhri, and so much more. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this beneficial. Ameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.